I'm Steve Farrell, the Worldwide Executive Director for Humanities Team, and welcome to this 15-minute brief meditation with Gangaji. Gangaji is a wonderful friend of Humanities Team and Global Oneness Day. She's created a Global Oneness Day meditation just for this program. Gangaji shares a simple message, an invitation to shift your allegiance from the activities of your mind to the eternal presence of your being. I'm going to introduce her briefly now. In 1972, she moved to San Francisco, where she began exploring deeper levels of her being. She took Bodhisattva vows, practiced Zen and meditation, helped run a Tibetan Buddhist meditation center, and had a career as an acupuncturist in San Francisco Bay Area. Despite her successes, Gangaji continued to experience a deep and persistent longing for fulfillment. She pursued many paths to change her life, including relationship, motherhood, political activism, career, and spiritual practice. But even the greatest of her successes ultimately came up short. In the wake of her disillusionment, she made a final prayer for true health. In 1990, the answer to her prayer came unexpectedly, taking her to India and to a meeting that would change everything. There, on the banks of the Ganga, she met Sri H.W.L. Punja, also known as Papaji, who opened the floodgates of her self-recognition. In this meeting, Gangaji's personal story of suffering ended, and the promise of a true life began to flower and unfold. Today, Gangaji travels the world speaking to seekers from all walks of life. A teacher and author, she shares her direct experience of the essential message she received from Papaji and offers it to all who want to discover a true and lasting fulfillment. Through her life and words, she powerfully articulates how it is really possible to discover the truth of who you are and be true to that discovery. And welcome to Global Oneness Day, Gangaji. It's great to have you with us.
Thank you, Steve. Really happy to be here.
We're just going to go to a few questions, and then we're going to go to this this meditation that Gangaji created for Global Oneness Day. And Gangaji, I wanted to start, with this part of my introduction. I was sharing of that unexpected moment in 1990 when you traveled to India. And you were with Papaji, and you created your enlightenment. And I just would love to understand, what was that experience? What happened?
Well, so incredible, because it was unexpected. So a great surprise, which is the fundamental characteristic of being true to yourself, and really something that I'll speak about more later. But when I got to Papaji, after a series of miraculous events, he met me at the door with his arms wide open, saying, "Welcome, welcome. What do you want?" And that very question, as simple as it is, and as long as I had been searching for what I wanted, actually threw me. It's, what do I want? And the word freedom arose. It could just as easily have been peace or love or happiness or enlightenment. And he said, "Great, you're in the right place." And somehow when I saw his confidence is not the right word, but supreme confidence, maybe we could say, in that, without any arrogance, I recognized I could pay very close attention to what he was saying. And I sat there and listened to him. And I said, "Tell me what to do." I had been through many different teachings, and they all had something for me to do, either meditation or visualization or mantra or service. And he said, "Stop doing everything." And when I actually allowed that in, it was terrifying, because I was afraid if I stopped doing everything, I would regress back to where I was before I had started my spiritual search. And I knew that all of the different practices I had had and the teachers I had met had contributed hugely to my life, and I didn't want to go backwards. So there was a fear there. But I trusted in the moment that he was really supporting me fully. Stop doing anything. And then I tried to take a meditation posture, stop doing anything. He said, no, stop that too. So when I met this fear that arose and I was able to just stop, there is this crystalline recognition of what is already stopped, what is always stopped, what is always in peace, what is free, what is actually free of conditions, because conditions are never exactly free of my emotions, free of my thoughts, free of circumstances of all kind. And I recognized that was who I am. That in fact, if I told the truth and I looked backward in my life, that presence of silent awareness had always been here. And somehow this was an invitation and a permission to tell the truth about that, to surrender to that, to not have to second guess that or yes, but what about, just to be at peace. And in some essential ways, this to me is true meditation, not a particular practice, but just the recognition of the capacity that each of us has to take a moment and stop and recognize what is always here. Papaji told me that I didn't need to teach anybody anything, that we all have enough teachings and we have enough practices. What's needed is a profound confirmation of what is always present and alive and vibrant and at peace and in fulfillment. And so that's different for everybody in a certain sense. It's a universal truth, but we're all unique creatures with complex experiences in our history. And so it presents differently with different people. Although finally, the thread and the invitation is the same, which is, are you willing in this moment to stop following your narrative of what's wrong or what you can get in the future or what happened in the past, and just take an inner dive to discover the radiant truth that you are, that everyone can realize this, that you don't need to be a yogi, you don't need to be born under a particular constellation that favors this. It's really through grace that you have already given rise, or that grace has given rise to a desire to be free, a desire to serve peace, a desire to know yourself. And so that desire in itself is enough, if you turn and face that, to recognize where home is, who you are.
Yeah, wow, what a beautiful invitation to all of us, this whole Global Oneness Day community. That was extraordinary, a lot to consider there. So thank you very much for that, Gangaji. And we're gonna now just flow right into this meditation that Gangaji created for us.
Well, I love how you say created, because I would say it's being created as we meet, as we speak. And really what this particular meditation is concerned with is the discovery of what is free also of creation, the spaciousness, the consciousness that animates your particular form and all form. So to begin, it's always very good to relax. So I think the most immediate way of relaxing is to take a few breaths, to take a few inhalations, holding that inhalation for a moment, and then experiencing the exhalation. And just waiting a moment until there's an impulse to inhale, holding that just for a moment, just as long as it feels comfortable, and then exhaling. And just a couple of more times of going at your own rate, listening to your own breath, just giving permission to allow the breath to direct the physical and emotional agitation that may or may not be present. And then from here, and you can continue this as you like, from this space of attention on the breath and recognizing the power of breath, you can recognize where the breath comes from. You don't have to name it. In fact, don't name it. Let it be free of your names, free of your definitions. Just that gives rise to the capacity to inhale, to hold that inhalation, and to exhale. So in this meditation, you have permission to retreat. You retreat from your forward motion. You retreat from your attention on the past. You retreat from what's wrong with the world. You have permission. And in this moment of permissive spaciousness, you can recognize, is there a particular thought that arises? It doesn't have to be a profound thought. It can be a very simple thought. Are you aware of any thought that arises? If it is a simple thought, like, for instance, what could that mean? You can look at that thought. You can recognize the thought. And then you can recognize how easy it is to dissolve that thought. You start with the last word of the thought, mean, and you just let mean fall into spaciousness. You recognize how insubstantial any word of any thought is. The next word is that. Just like with the first word, which was the last word of the sentence, you let that dissolve, disappear. Has no substance, no resistance to disappearance. And the next word is could. Oh, just as easily. Could falls into emptiness, spaciousness. The first word of the sentence, which is our last word now, is what? What? How empty the word what is when you actually turn your conscious attention. How easily it just dissolves. Do you recognize, or are you willing to recognize, or even will you receive the invitation to recognize this substance is the truth of who you are? It's yourself. Whatever feelings you are feeling or have felt from the very beginning of your feeling life, whatever problems, whatever thoughts, whatever victories, whatever defeats, this living substance, consciousness, has been and is always present. You may or may not have followed the directions of this, or you may or may not have understood this. None of that's important. What's important is that you have heard, you have permission to be free. You have permission to be at peace. You have permission to be yourself. It's what brings us together. It's what this day of oneness celebrates. Thank you for allowing me into your particular life in this way at this time.
Oh boy. Oh, so beautiful. Gangaji. Yeah. Oh, thank you for such a wonderful blessing. Really extraordinary. Thank you very much. That'll, may we bring that blessing with us to not only today, but each day.
Yes.
Really extraordinary. Thank you. Next up is a special sound healing program with sound healing pioneer Jonathan Goldman. It's called Whales of Compassion. And it's truly extraordinary. Be sure to stay tuned. I'm Steve Farrell, the Worldwide Executive Director for Humanities Team, and welcome to this 15-minute program with Jonathan Goldman. Jonathan is a dear friend of Humanities Team and Global Oneness Day. He's a pioneer in sound healing and has created a sound healing moment just for this year's Global Oneness Day program. It's called Whales of Compassion. You're really going to enjoy Jonathan and this beautiful new piece that he's created. I'm going to formally introduce Jonathan now. Jonathan Goldman is an international authority on sound healing and a pioneer in the field of harmonics. He is the director of the Sound Healers Association and president of Spirit Music, Inc. in Boulder, Colorado. Jonathan is a Grammy nominee who has created numerous best-selling, award-winning recordings, including Chakra Chants and the Divine Name, and has written over a half-dozen best-selling, award-winning books, including Chakra Frequencies and The Humming Effect, which he co-authored with his wife, Andy. Jonathan is an internationally acknowledged master teacher facilitating healing sound seminars at seminars and expos throughout the United States and Europe. Welcome to Global Oneness Day. Jonathan, great to have you with us.
Steve, it is fabulous to be part of Global Oneness Day, so thank you so very much to all the beings on this planet who are taking part in this extraordinary event. Hallelujah.
All right, hallelujah. Absolutely. Namaste to all of you, and thank you for being here with us for this extraordinary 12-plus hour program on Global Oneness Day. Well, Jonathan, we're going to jump right in because there's a lot of really cool stuff we want to get to in this 15-minute program. First, let's talk about Whales of Compassion. I shared a little bit about it in your introduction. How did you decide to create it? What was your inspiration for this piece?
Well, Steve, I've always been, if you like, really attracted to our cetacean friends, the dolphins and the whales. From back over 30 years ago when my son Joshua was born, I created a recording for him called Dolphin Dreams. And in fact, Whales of Compassion was part of a longer, if you like, conceptual project that I have yet to complete. If you like, it came to me. It was, I was guided with this concept that the whales of compassion are calling in order to help wake up humanity and bring them to a higher level of consciousness and evolution so that we may continue on this planet, not only our species, but all species together, because it's so very, very important. And as you may or may not know, in a lot of the different medicine traditions, the whales are the carriers of sacred sound.
This is an extraordinary piece I want to just share as well. As Jonathan and I were talking about Global Oneness Day 2018, there were a number of really cool things that we could do. But Jonathan sent me this piece called Whales of Compassion, and it's extraordinary. And how cool that whales actually are seen as playing an evolutionary role. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that, Jonathan?
Well, just on a level, by gosh and by golly, you all remember that Star Trek called The Voyage Home, where there were no more humpback whales, and Kirk and his company had to go back to the 1980s in San Francisco in order to bring them back to the future so they could communicate with this probe. Anyway, bottom line is that I think that whales and dolphins are very, very highly evolved beings, and that we really need, part of, the lyrics, if you like, of this song, and this song does have lyrics, which most of mine don't, but is, come save the earth, come save the sea, come save the children, join in, you'll see that the whales of compassion are calling. And it's really a call for all of us to take part in basically restoring our planet to the pristine, wondrous, if you like, entity that it is. And I have actually, at the very, very beginning of it, is a chant that came to me when I was holding my son Joshua 30 years ago. And I don't really know what it means, Steve. It possibly is from the Pleiades or from Sirius or perhaps Atlantis or some other thing, but it's like Yishkato Yahanta Incante. I'm not sure the meaning, but I think it means something like there are beings being created now on this planet who will be guiding us and telling us what to do in order to assist our evolution. And so I use that as part of the chant, if you like, on Whales of Compassion, and it's there. So if you don't know what it means, I don't either, but you can trust that you'll feel it in your heart.
Yeah, boy, that's beautiful. And of course, Global Oneness Day, our message is that we're all emanations of the divine, and that includes animal life and plant life. Everything is made in the likeness and image of God. And isn't it beautiful that in the midst of this transformation and shift and awakening that's going on, that animals are playing a leadership role, such as what this whole piece is about. So this really relates in a really beautiful way to Global Oneness Day, doesn't it?
Yes, and I like to think that people can watch this and also remember our connection, not only to the whales, but to all the beings on this planet. And what a blessing for Global Oneness Day to be occurring, because we really need to interconnect, because we can't do it by ourselves. We have to do it in community. We have to do it in oneness. As you know, in the Hindu tradition, there's a concept of Advaita, which is oneness, which is just non-duality, and we need to be in that place, because if we work together we can make a difference.
Yes, we can. And I love that your message during World Sound Healing Day, which is Valentine's Day, which is so similar in many ways to Global Oneness Day, that you share, when we heal ourselves, we heal the world. When we heal the world, we heal ourselves. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because that of course is a Global Oneness Day message too.
Well, and once again, this has to do with, whether you want to call it ancient mystic knowledge or quantum physics at this point, the interconnectedness of all beings on the planet. In fact, all our atoms, and the breath that I'm breathing is the breath that you breathe, is the breath that all these sacred beings have breathed, and all these animals, and everything is one. And we just so need to remember this, because it's really our duty now. It's our duty for our children and our children's children, and for 7 generations on down the line, just so that everything continues as it is. We're certainly facing challenges, but we can get by these challenges and bring them to a new level of evolution and consciousness just by working together.
Yes, we can. And we need to continue the awakening and the shift and the transformation in the direction that it's going, because we don't have a sustainable planet, and we've got to move beyond sustainability to thriving. And that's what Global Oneness Day is about, what World Sound Healing Day is about, is really creating a thriving planet by living in ultimate reality, which is our oneness. Well, let's jump right into this beautiful piece that you've created. This is called, again, Whales of Compassion by Jonathan Goldman. Wow, you're in for a treat. And here we go.
compassionate calling. They're calling for me. Come save the earth. Come save the sea. Come save the children. Join, you'll see that the wails of compassion are calling. Yes, the wails of compassion are calling. Yes, the wails of compassion are calling. They're calling for you. Oh, the wails of compassion are calling. They're calling for you. Open your hearts. Find what you need. All things are one. Join, you'll see. Wails of compassion are calling. Yes, the wails of compassion are calling. Ishkitoyata, Inkante, Ishkitoyata, Inkante, Ishkitoyata, Inkante, Ishkitoyata, Inkante, Ishkitoyata, Inkante, Ishkitoyata, Inkante,
Wow, Jonathan, extraordinary. And thank you so much for that piece. Totally amazing. And I know I'm giving voice to all the viewers. What an amazing piece. Thank you for creating that and sharing that here during Global Oneness Day. Next up is our final frontier with Neil Donald Walsh. Neil and Humanities team believe we've come to a final frontier on the earth, a frontier where we clearly see the challenges that we face individually and collectively